Hello, Henry. It's been a long time, but it's over. Okay, kid, you can go.
The Sting isn't just a movie about clever cons. It's actually full of behind-the-scenes surprises most people have no clue about. Believe it or not, the script was once buried in a forgotten pile, and somehow this film even turned old-school ragtime music into a mainstream hit. There's a lot more where that came from. Want to hear 15 weird and awesome facts you probably never knew about The Sting? Number 1. It all started with a book about real con artists. You know what's wild? The Sting didn't just pop out of some screenwriter's imagination. It was inspired by a legit book about actual con men. David S. Ward, the guy who wrote the movie, was digging around for research material for a totally different film when he came across The Big Con by David Maurer. Now, this book wasn't some casual beach read. It was more like a deep dive into the language and lives of real-life grifters. And inside, Ward found gold. 2 smooth-talking swindlers named Fred and Charlie Gondorf. Sound familiar? Yeah, that's because Gondorf became one of the main characters in The Sting. But here's where it gets messy. Maurer noticed the similarities between his book and the film, and he was not having it. He ended up suing Universal Pictures for plagiarism. And honestly, he kind of had a point. There were entire cons, phrases, and even characters lifted straight from his book. Rather than drag things through a public court battle, Universal just settled the whole thing quietly. No drama, no headlines, just a hush-hush payout. So basically, the con movie about con men might have pulled a little con of its own to get made. Number 2. The script was almost left in a slush pile. Here's another fun fact. The Sting almost didn't happen, like at all. David S. Ward was a total nobody in Hollywood back then. No big-name rep, no blockbuster hits under his belt, just some guy trying to break into the industry. He had written this brilliant, twisty screenplay, but nobody was exactly lining up to read it. For a while, it just sat there, gathering dust with all the other forgotten scripts in a studio slush pile. Imagine that. A future Oscar-winning film just chilling in a forgotten corner of a studio office. Eventually, someone gave it a shot, and the rest is history. But it could have easily gone the other way. It makes you think about how many great stories are out there, totally ignored because they don't have the right names attached. Ward went from unknown writer to Hollywood royalty, all because someone finally picked up that dusty old script and realized it was something special. Number 3. Newman's character was originally just a drunk. Here's something that might surprise you. Paul Newman's character, Henry Gondorf, was barely a character at first. In the original draft of the script, he was just some washed-up, drunken mess living in the back of a carnival ride. He wasn't slick or charming, just kind of pathetic. Honestly, he was more like comic relief than the mastermind we see in the final film. But then Paul Newman came on board. And when you've got Paul freaking Newman interested in your movie, you don't hand him a role that's a total disaster. Ward went back and reworked the entire character. He turned Gondorf into the smooth, clever con artist we all love. Someone who could go toe-to-toe with mobsters and still come out looking cool. It's kind of funny to think that one of Newman's most iconic roles started off as a total throwaway. Talk about a glow-up. Number 4. Shaw's limp was totally real.
$6 and $4.20. Redley paid $3.80 to show.
Robert Shaw, who played the terrifying gangster Doyle Lonigan, walks with a limp throughout the movie. You probably thought it was just part of his tough guy character, right? Nope. That limp wasn't in the script. It was real. Shaw hurt his knee playing racquetball just days before shooting started. Now, most actors would have panicked or taken time off to heal, but Shaw, he just rolled with it. Director George Roy Hill figured the limp actually added something gritty to the character and told him to keep it. So that stiff-legged walk you see in every scene, that's not acting. That's a guy powering through legit pain. Somehow it made Lonigan even scarier. You'd never guess a sports injury would turn into an acting bonus, but hey, Hollywood is weird like that. Number 5. Redford and Newman weren't actually that far apart in age. Okay, be honest. When you first watched The Sting, didn't Paul Newman seem way older than Robert Redford? Like, seasoned mentor guiding the fresh-faced rookie vibes? Well, turns out Newman was only 10 years older than Redford. That's it. Just a decade. It's funny because their chemistry really sells the idea that they're from totally different worlds. Newman, the wise old pro, Redford, the young up-and-comer. But in real life, they weren't that far apart in age or experience. It's all about how they carried themselves. Newman had this effortless gravitas, like he'd been around the block 100 times. Redford, on the other hand, had that cool, youthful energy that made him seem much younger. Together, they struck the perfect balance and audiences bought into the dynamic completely. But once you know they were practically peers, it kind of flips your perspective. Number 6. They used a hand double for the card tricks. You know those slick card tricks Paul Newman pulls off in The Sting? The ones that make him look like he could out-hustle anyone at a poker table? Yeah, that wasn't him. I hate to break the illusion, but Newman didn't actually do those flashy moves. Instead, they brought in a legendary sleight of hand expert named John Scarn to be his hand double. So anytime you see Gondorf dealing cards like a pro, it's literally just Scarn's hands in the shot. Honestly, it makes sense. Card manipulation isn't something you just learn overnight. Even if you're Paul Newman, Scarn was a master. He'd been performing magic and card tricks for decades, and he made it look effortless. The director knew they needed that smooth conman finesse, so they let Scarn handle the technical stuff. It's kind of genius, really. Let the actor sell the charm and the con, and let the pro handle the close-up magic. Most people never even notice the switch. Number 7. The entire film was structured like a con. This one might blow your mind. The Sting isn't just a movie about a con, it's a con on the audience. Everything from the structure to the pacing to the little clues they drop along the way is meant to trick you. Seriously, the whole film is laid out like one giant hustle. You've got those fancy chapter title cards that make it feel like you're reading a storybook, but they also throw you off just enough so you don't question what's coming next. Then there are the visual misdirections. The camera often lingers on the wrong person or cuts just before something shady happens. And don't get me started on the music cues. They lull you into a false sense of comfort, like everything's under control. But really the film is leading you down one path while setting you up for the final twist. Just like the mark in the movie, you don't realize you've been duped until it's already over. When that final scene hits and everything clicks into place, you realize the filmmakers just pulled a con on you, and you loved every second of it. Number 8. The music? Not even from the right era. If you thought the soundtrack to The Sting sounded a little off for a 1930s crime caper, you're absolutely right. The music that became the soul of the movie, Scott Joplin's famous ragtime pieces like The Entertainer, wasn't from the 30s at all. It was actually from the early 1900s, about 3 decades before the time period the film is set in. That's kind of a weird choice, right? But somehow it totally worked. What's even weirder is that it didn't just work in the movie. It became a full-blown pop culture hit. Marvin Hamlish's arrangement of The Entertainer turned into a Billboard chart topper. People were walking around in the 1970s humming ragtime music that hadn't been popular in over 60 years. That almost never happens. Usually, music that's out of place in a film breaks the vibe. But in The Sting, it somehow made the whole thing more iconic. The music gave it this quirky, playful energy that balanced the darker moments. And now, it's impossible to hear The Entertainer and not think about this movie. Number 9. One scene was an actual accident.
I think so. I know everyone in the place and I always bounce the lamesters.
All right if I look around in here?
No, but you're welcome to a free beer before we go.
There's a scene in the movie where Charles Durning's character, Snyder, gets so flustered that he spills a drink right onto Billy's hand. It looks totally natural, like something that might actually happen when tempers flare during a high-stakes con. But here's the kicker. It wasn't in the script at all. That little accident? Completely real. Durning just kind of lost control in the moment, and the drink went flying. Instead of yelling cut or reshooting it, the director decided to keep the scene exactly as it was. And you know what? It worked beautifully. It added this raw, unpredictable energy to the scene that made it feel less like a movie and more like a real confrontation. Sometimes the best moments in film happen when things go wrong, and instead of scrapping them, the crew leans into the chaos. That one unscripted spill turned into a perfect piece of character development, and most people watching never even realized it wasn't planned. Number 10. The costumes won an Oscar for the 8th time. Let's talk fashion, because The Sting didn't just win audiences over with its clever plot and slick acting. The costumes were a whole mood. Every suit, every dress, every hat screamed 1930s swagger. And there's one woman we can thank for that, Edith Head. If you don't know the name, just know she's basically the Beyoncé of costume design. She had already won 7 Oscars before The Sting came along, and this movie earned her number 8. That's not a typo, 8 Academy Awards. Her attention to detail was ridiculous. She knew how to make every character's outfit match their personality and social status. Gondorff looked confident and sharp, Hooker had that roguish charm, and Lonergan, cold and intimidating. All just from what they were wearing. Head didn't just design clothes, she helped build characters, and the Sting was the perfect playground for her to show off. This was also her final Oscar win, which kind of feels poetic. She went out on top, dressing up one of the most stylish heist films of all time. Number 11. The poker scene wasn't just acting. So you know that iconic poker scene in The Sting, the one where Robert Redford's character, Johnny Hooker, gets totally drunk and still manages to outsmart everyone at the table? Yeah, that wasn't exactly all acting. Turns out Redford himself was actually tipsy while shooting it. He admitted years later that he'd had more than a few drinks before filming that scene, and you can kind of tell if you watch closely. Now, normally, showing up to a shoot with alcohol in your system is a huge no-no, especially on a professional film set. But in this case, it somehow worked. Redford's slightly slurred speech and loose body language gave Hooker just the right amount of cocky, reckless energy. That's some next-level acting, or maybe just a happy accident. Either way, it gave the scene a weird, hilarious authenticity that no amount of rehearsal could have pulled off. Number 12. The train station was a set, not a real location. One of the coolest things about The Sting is how it totally immerses you in 1930s Chicago. The streets, the bars, the poker rooms, it all feels so gritty and real. But guess what? That classic-looking train station where some of the most dramatic scenes happen, it's completely fake. It wasn't shot in any real Chicago location, it was all built from scratch on the Universal Studios backlot in Hollywood. That train station set was so well designed, it's fooled people for decades. They even added tiny period-accurate touches like vintage luggage, old-timey posters, and rusted metal beams to sell the illusion. And Universal didn't just build it for The Sting, they kept using it in other productions afterward. It's like Hollywood's little chameleon of a train station, popping up in different outfits whenever needed. So, the next time you see that scene, just know you're looking at movie magic built from wood, paint, and some seriously clever design work. Number 13. The sequel was so bad, fans pretend it doesn't exist. Now this one's kind of tragic. After the massive success of The Sting, someone at the studio had the brilliant idea to make a sequel. And in 1983, The Sting 2 hit theaters. But, and this is a big but, it didn't have Paul Newman. It didn't have Robert Redford. It didn't even have the original director, George Roy Hill. So basically it had nothing that made the first movie special. Instead, they recast the roles and tried to continue the story with new actors and a new tone. And let's just say, fans weren't having it. Critics shredded it, audiences ignored it, and most people who loved the original pretend it never happened. It's like the film equivalent of that one awkward cousin at family dinner that everyone avoids eye contact with. Even people who've seen The Sting a dozen times often don't know The Sting 2 exists, which might honestly be for the best. Some things are better left untouched, and this was definitely one of them. Number 14. One actor's death made the ending hit harder. Robert Shaw, who played the cold and calculating Doyle Lonergan, gave one of the most memorable performances in the entire movie. He was menacing, composed, and totally believable as a guy you really don't want to mess with. What a lot of people don't realize is that Shaw passed away not long after The Sting was completed. He died in 1978, just a few years after the film's release, at the age of 51. Knowing that adds a strange, emotional weight to his performance, especially when you re-watch the ending. Lonergan gets completely duped in the final con, and there's this look on Shaw's face that almost feels tragic, like you're watching a man lose more than just money. Shaw had this ability to make even the meanest characters feel real, and the fact that this was one of his last major roles makes it feel even more iconic. It's not just a villain getting what's coming, it's an actor delivering a final, unforgettable performance that's still sending chills down spines decades later. Number 15. The set designers hid Easter eggs in the background. This one's for the eagle-eyed viewers. The set designers on The Sting had a bit of fun with the scenery. They didn't just build a beautiful 1930s world, they hid stuff in it. Like actual Easter eggs. If you look closely in a few scenes, you'll catch fake brand names that were made up by the crew, inside jokes, and even names of friends and family hidden in store signs or background posters. It's like a visual scavenger hunt that most people totally miss. One scene might have a product that never existed, Another might include a company name that's actually a shout out to a crew member's hometown. These tiny details don't change the story, but they add a weird sense of richness to the world. It's something filmmakers often do just to entertain themselves or honor the people working behind the scenes. And in a movie like The Sting, where every frame is carefully designed to fool or entertain, these hidden touches feel right at home. It's like the movie is conning you into thinking everything's serious, when really, the crew is having a little fun behind the curtain. So, what are your thoughts on this? Let us know in the comments below. And while you're at it, don't forget to subscribe to our channel.